Hi, I'm Captain Dylan Hubbard from Hubbard's Marina out of Madeira Beach, beautiful Johns Pass, Madeira Beach, Florida. We've been fishing local waters since 1928. We operate party boat fishing vessels and 4 different private charter boats. And welcome to Head First Fishing here on YouTube. We're going to talk a little bit today about tackle selection for some of your near shore and close offshore fishing, anywhere from about 20 to about maybe 140 foot of water. This is going to be my go-to tackle selection in combination of tack when I'm fishing offshore for anywhere from grouper to snapper to your pelagic species. This is going to be kind of my go-to combination. My first setup here is going to be my Stratic CI14 on my St. Croix rod, kind of a medium heavy backbone with a real light sensitive tip, and that allows me to feel those hogfish and yellowtail and those other snapper species that I'm going after with greater sensitivity. You'll notice I have a majority of braid on my reel, and then I have a long fluorocarbon top shot, and that allows me to attack those hogfish and smaller snapper species with the agility I need. Also, the fluorocarbon helps it to disappear greater in the water. You'll notice I've got set up a knocker rig here with a double snell rig. You see I've got a bigger 1 ounce lead there, but I even use leads as small as maybe a 1/4 ounce or even smaller. So it really just depends on the tide. You want to use the smallest lead possible to be able to kind of flutter that bait naturally down into the water. And this lighter sapper setup gives me the ability to present that bait naturally to them hogfish and other snapper species you might be targeting. Now, my secondary setup is my workhorse here, my Daiwa Saltist 2-speed. It's an LD50, which gives me plenty of line capacity, and you'll notice again a majority of braid on the reel with a fluorocarbon top shot. Again, just allows me the sensitivity and line capacity in the spool, but then also gives me the fluorocarbon top shot so I have stretch in my setup and the line disappears better in the water. Then this is on a Hubbard's Marina killer stick with Fuji guides. It's got a good backbone, so I'm able to horse up a big gag grouper or a nice red grouper, but I've still got my sensitive tip for those snapper species. This setup right here has killed a lot of mangrove snapper and plenty of red grouper as well. And then I've got my bigger setup, which is going to be my Daiwa Saltiga. This reel has the drag capacity I need to handle my bigger species, my bigger gag grouper, my bigger red grouper, and my red snapper. This is my go-to setup come June when I'm fishing for those red snapper and gag groupers out there in deeper water. Unfortunately, I lost my fluorocarbon top shot because I've been jigging with this reel quite a bit, and the high speed gear ratio allows me to vary my settings for the fish I'm going after. 2-speed setup is definitely the way to go in this day and age of technology. The 2-speed allows you to have the ability to change between reels without changing out settings. For example, if I'm fishing for mangrove snapper, I want a high gear ratio reel to allow me the quick retrieve to be able to set the hook on that snapper in deeper water more quickly. But then a lot of times, as you know, when you're fishing for mangroves, you accidentally hook that big gag grouper. That's when the 2-speed setup comes into play, because all you have to do is click that 2-speed button, and now I've downshifted into a lower gear. And then to get back into high gear, quick snap of the reel and I'm back in high gear. Being able to switch through reels like that is something I find that's invaluable offshore. For example, on a recent charter I was running, we were out there targeting red grouper and mangroves, and I was doing really well on mangrove snapper. So I kept going after those mangroves. I'm using 40 or 50 pound fluorocarbon leader in a small sardine plug, and I was doing really well on some big 7, 8, 9 pound mangroves. Well, just as you'd expect, a bigger species hit that rig, and I was able to quickly downshift, put my leg up on the rail, and slowly crank that thing off the bottom, and then switch back into high gear and get them up to the surface quickly, and I ended up with about a 25 pound red grouper. that if I was using a snapper setup that didn't have that second gear, I would have had no chance in landing that fish. So this is kind of my go-to combination when I'm going offshore. When I go a little deeper, I might bring my 9/0 reel with 100 to 150 pound line for my bigger amberjack, and when gag grouper in and I'm using those 3-pound baits, I need a little bit more backbone. And then you always have your trolling setups as well. In trolling setups, that'd be a whole nother video. But this was Captain Dylan Hubbard from Hubbard's Marina, the original and longest running private charter fleet in the entire west coast of Florida, bringing you my offshore and nearshore setup, and I hope you liked the video. Thanks for tuning into the video. If you liked it, make sure you hit the subscribe button to follow Head First Fishing on their next adventure. And remember, if you're too busy to go fishing, you're just too busy.